Welcome to the Stories Are Soul Food podcast, presented by Cannonball Books and Great Homeschool Conventions.
Welcome to the Stories Are Soul Food podcast, and I wanted to ask you, Nate,
Yeah.
if you'd heard of the new record Kickstarter. Brandon Sanderson's Kickstarter just raised $25 million in 5 days or something to release 4 novels, self-published through the Kickstarters. I was curious if you had any thoughts.
It seems bizarre to me. I mean, it makes sense. Direct. I don't know why he would do that. I just don't. So
I don't know either. I have never finished a Brandon Sanderson book, although I haven't tried particularly hard.
So it's one of those things where with Kickstarter, you're giving up such a huge chunk to Kickstarter.
It's 30, right? 30%?
Yeah. I think it's 30.
He might have gotten a better deal. I don't know.
20% even. Like, why are you giving up that much money? And then you really could have just pre-sold this thing. You know, it's like, this is...
Right. So it's 4 manuscripts and 16 merch boxes that he's sending out to these people over an entire year.
That sounds so painful to me.
It's a lot of sales.
But really painful.
I'm curious too. My only thought is, and this is of course coming from a publisher, so sour grapes, but my only thought was the manuscripts aren't good enough to be published. So he self-publishes them, or he didn't get an offer on them?
No, once you've built a brand big enough, you don't need a publisher to actually get to your consumers.
Yeah.
To get to your readers. However, you do need, hopefully, a publisher to get outside of your own head. And
yeah, we've discussed other books that needed an editor.
And so you can look at, like we talked about Potter and other things, where you look at the later books of Potter and you think, okay, so did she need Scholastic? No, she did not. She really didn't. What were they doing?
Right.
They handled logistics for her, but given the percentage they were taking, that's silly. So he's got a big enough fan base. He could be spooling up his own platform, his own shingle, and doing that. Direct access to your own consumers is great as far as it goes, but I'm a firm believer, an extremely firm believer in do only what you're best at and try to find other people who are best at other parts, and then don't do those things.
Yeah.
So I could do a lot of things, but if there's other people who are better at those things, let's just remove those from my plate, from my desk, and not do them.
Because you don't want to worry about logistics while you're trying to write.
Right. Yeah. Why on earth would I do that? And that's, when I look at all of that, that's what I see. It's like, man, you really just want to found a whole publishing operation for this one thing. And how much money are you actually going to make? Like, how much is he going to actually pocket by the time he's done? Everybody's going to think you just made 25 million, and you did not make 25 million by the time you're done across 4 books and all that inventory and all that delivery and then all that logistical management and all the people you're hiring.
Freight is additional, which is interesting to me. You
right.
know, he's at least doing that, but it's crazy to think about the $5 million that go to Kickstarter. You know, at minimum, 5 to 7.
Minimum. So we scrape that off the top and then do everything else. And so by the time he's done, is he really made that much more than he would have with a strong deal with a publisher?
Yeah.
If he'd gone to auction or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I'd say maybe, but do you want that? Like, because now all that extra work and care that you put into all those side hustle pieces of this endeavor, you spent doing that instead of actually writing some more stuff. So, I do have a lot of things that I like to do that are not just writing. And I get distracted and I do all sorts of other stuff, other projects, and it's tough. There's always things that are hard. So, but I like what I'm doing with Ashdown. I'm doing with Silent Bells 4, Ashdown 4, Silent Bells, is that direct access to consumers, like letting them facilitate the creation of a rough draft, which would never come into existence otherwise. So it just wouldn't happen. It would not happen because I have other work. I have work, and it's hard to make it happen now. Like it's been forever between the last chapter and the next chapter because I've had to do you write multiple scripts and do multiple passes on those scripts.
Yeah.
And it's
one of those squeezing in 3,000 to 6,000 words.
Yeah. And like, okay, I've got to stop and write a chapter on this draft. And I've got all these people waiting for it, and I'm going to do it. I'm excited about it. And like, okay, the next chapter is going to happen. And it wouldn't otherwise. It just wouldn't.
Right.
So that's possible. Like, it's possible for me to scrape and claw and carve out, the next chapter. But even there, it's hard. It's not easy. And so I've got my own approach to get there. And so I sympathize with him trying to find a way to be more efficient and a way to get to his readers directly. I can sympathize with that. I just don't see how Kickstarter and all these extra tiers make any sense. 10 April's done it effectively as well. And he loved it, and he knew he was going to get kicked off. And he actually could clear decent money because he was efficient. But the stuff he had to work on and care about, and
I mean, now he moved to Indiegogo, right?
Uh-huh.
So even that, the platform,
and he knows that even there, he's not going to last forever. It's like because he's going to get deplatformed there eventually.
Yeah, call back to whatever that was. Early episodes of SASFA with 10 Maple on.
Yep. So it's I get it. I sympathize with it. I sympathize with the desire of authors to reach readers in different ways. And it's funny because you have one of the most common conversations I have with aspiring authors is how to get a publisher. And then when you talk to authors who are well established and very successful, they're thinking constantly of how to get rid of their publisher.
Right.
Like how do I get rid of the publisher and bypass the publisher and just get to the crowd without the publisher? How do I cut out this infrastructure?
Yeah.
And so the young aspiring authors are thinking, please, can you connect me? Can you hook me up with New York? And then the guys who are cashing large checks, and let's say that you're a best-selling author and you made a ton of sales and you only cleared $1 million in a year, and you're thinking, man, that's a lot of units I just sold to only make $1 million. How do I make $10 million? How do I grow? How do you be ambitious? It's like, well, I need to get rid of this publisher. How do I just get to those people and take a bigger bite of the apple?
Yeah.
And that frequently means putting down a worse product.
Yep. I mean, you look at the typical publishing knowledge is that you make 20%, so the author gets half of that, the 10%. Or, if you're making 30, then the author would make a 15%.
Yeah.
But I think most people look at the 90-10 split and think, wow, the publisher must be getting rich.
Yeah. Super rich.
It is not so.
There's a lot of stuff to do to release a book, and a lot of infrastructure that's in place. So those sunk costs and maintaining the infrastructure are real. It's very real.
Otherwise, you end up like the Rings of Power, leaving half of your infrastructure in New Zealand.
The Rings of Power.
A mistake made by self-publishers.
So it is. I mean, what everybody wants in an ideal world is to sit around and think of great thoughts and then have people pay them tons of money for them and have the book write itself super easily and then have it sell really, really well. And that actually kind of doesn't happen. And so if you're really successful and you sell your first novel, a friend of mine sold, first book, wins the National Book Award.
Oh, wow.
Like, whoa, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Boom. Hallelujah. Okay, now it's time for book 2. All you have now is the burden of failure. Like that's where your bar is. And then the publisher like, yeah, this one didn't really work. So we're gonna have to reduce your royalties now. We're gonna have to actually give you a smaller advance next time. We're gonna actually all your deals are going the other direction.
Yeah, they're saying, sorry, did you expect to win the National Book Award with every book?
Every time. Did you really think that's how this was gonna work?
Yeah.
It's like, no, it doesn't go that way. And you have guys like me. It's like where I've earned out advances and had big franchises. Then you see personnel changes and, series getting canceled or series getting moved to publishers, and you're hopping around and it's like, oh, this book we canceled marketing on, or this book. And you can see why authors think they need to get rid of their publisher, because the publisher is not monogamous. The publisher has so many relationships to care about.
Right.
And the one they care about more than anything else is their own bottom line.
Well,
they have to.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah. It's not an insult. It just is the case. And so I don't think it's a bad thing to have authors have to eat some of their own cooking and see
Right.
like what the actual market says about their work. So Sanderson has a massive base, and he was able to raise 25 million on Kickstarter, and his fans were willing to donate 5 to 7 million of that to Kickstarter for the privilege of doing it, which is just absurd to me.
Right.
So we'll see how successful he is. And I think the question is, right afterwards, when this one's done, will he do another one? And that's what's going to tell us whether or not it worked as well as he thought it would. So if he does this and is like, yeah, this is my future,
and does another one
and raises, 22 million, 19 million, and is happy and keeps going, then we'll know, like, yeah, his margins are great. He actually has this dialed in. He's smart. This is working. Yep. But what it means is he just used Kickstarter to found a publisher that only publishes him.
Right. Do you think it has a lot to do with his genre? I'm just trying to think of other people who could do this.
Right.
And it doesn't seem like every author could pull this off. It seems like I'm trying to think, what is it that Sanderson has? Is it just the sheer number of people? It can't be that, because in some sense you can pay for that.
Well, I mean, okay, so he's a strong fantasy. There's a strong fantasy base.
Right.
They are famously committed.
Right.
There's a famous commitment there. But if you move over into other genres, what are you thinking wouldn't work?
Well, I'm just wondering, there's a reason that the other Kickstarters, the 20 million one that had the record before him, was watches, smart watches. And it seems, we've seen some good book success. I'm trying to think about 10 Naples top.
Yeah.
A couple million.
Yeah.
It just seems like that sort of buy-in and interest for the merch connected with, such that most people are dropping $500 right there on Sanderson for a year. Maybe it just speaks to the value of it. Needs to be somebody who's like, yeah, I'm planning on reading 4 novels from this voice in the next year, and if I didn't have that,
and I want goodies,
and
I want goodies,
and the 12 t-shirts.
In a digital age, physicality is highly valuable.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to give me digital, and this is stuff I can touch.
Yeah.
And that is
t-shirts tied with things I love. Would we all do that for Tolkien t-shirts?
I would say, okay, so if Jonathan Ronald Rule
yeah,
suddenly said, hey, $500, I've got 4 novels you can read, I'd be in.
I have to say I would be too.
Yeah.
So these people feel about Sanderson the way that
I'd do the same thing for Lewis.
We do the same thing for a number of.
I'd probably do the same thing for Woodhouse. I would do the same. Probably wouldn't for Chesterton. That's the funny part. As much as I love Chesterton, I'd be like,
a couple of those could be a
slack
dud.
off on your novels.
Yeah, a couple of those could be real duds.
I know I'm only going to be getting like one novel, because if I take the great moments from all of these, like The Ball and the Cross is awesome. Man Who Was Thursday, I really enjoy immensely. But yeah, no, even Chesterton, as much as I love Chesterton, I wouldn't drop 5.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel this way. I feel this way with, back to my own situation. Like people are willing, because they love Ashtown, they love the characters. People have been willing to pony up to enable me to write this book. Yeah, and they know that that's what they're doing. They're enabling me to write this book, and that's fantastic, and I appreciate it. And so they know I hear from people all the time who are like, I really, 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 really want this book. I just really, really, really want this book. But I did the math, and a book would normally cost me, $8 when I buy the paperback. And
you're charging $3
and I'm be paying $3 a chapter for this. And that's I just can't justify that. I'm like, great, you don't get to read it. It's fine with me. I mean, this is the way it works. But more than that, you don't get to put your shoulder on the minivan and help push it out of the ditch and help make it exist, which is what the thousands of people who've chipped in to make this thing happen have done.
Right.
So they're paying to bring something into existence. And I know that's happening with Sanderson too. I know his fans they want these things to exist, and they're able to make it exist. So I've seen a real power, and this exists over at Angel Studios. This exists in other places. A real power that comes when, in a good way, to the reader, to the consumer, to the viewer, when you treat them like the executive, when you treat them like the publisher, and you say, okay, do you want to greenlight this project? You can greenlight this project.
Yeah.
And greenlighting this project costs more than
just consuming
a paperback,
right,
borrowed from a friend. And so the thing that's funny is I have people who are not they're not wealthy people who have multiple subscriptions in their house, one for each kid, because they view these things as a treasure that when they've actually finished accumulating all the first draft of this novel, they'll have that forever. When the novel's edited, when the novel's released, when the novel comes into existence, when the book series is completed, they will still have this artifact that was, like this was that first draft that they helped create, that they brought it into existence, and they can be there with in the full confidence that it would not have existed otherwise. Like
right.
They helped greenlight this thing, and that's kind of awesome. We did that with Riot in the Dance on Angel Studios. Like, do you want more Riot in the Dance? You can greenlight this. Like, you can actually be the executive and greenlight this TV show. Instead of waiting for Hollywood executives to serve your needs, you can actually take the initiative and do this. And that is something that I love to do. And I've seen that lots of other people love to do. And we're willing to pay a little bit more when we know we're creating something from nothing in white space.
Well, at Canon and Cannonball, that's why we get so many people who are subscribing to Canon Plus. I mean, they like the content, but they also are friends.
They want it to exist.
They want to help us.
They want it to exist.
We're trying to build an audience of like-minded Christians, and so they think
in terms of support, and they think in terms of building, and all that kind of stuff. So I do understand the Sanderson Kickstarter, because I've seen it with our Riot in the Dance campaign on Angel, and I've seen it with Ashtown and the Silent Bells, and I actually, with that one, I just said I'm going to cap it. Like, I'm just capping this. We need to hit 2,000 subscribers, and I'm going to close it, and we're going to go. And we shot right past that. I mean, we just, it's like it ended up in a great place, and it's good. We're going to keep going. And when the book's finished, when the draft is finished, when the rough draft is finished and published in these newspapers, then we'll be going back around, and we'll be trying to finding a way to release an actual box set or something. Like, how do we release the completed series? And there's a lot of legal contract shenanigans to navigate as far as Random House goes on that front. But it is really interesting to see what people will pay for and what they won't pay for.
Yeah. I mean, that comes down to it, is that they see the value of $500. That's what Sanderson is for a year. Or they see the value of $3 a chapter of Nate's stuff. That's totally worth it. It's very fun.
And so the fact of the other thing is, it's $3 a chapter. It's not the information. It's a newspaper that shows up. And the experience for your kids of that showing up,
right, with a comic in it, and
and so we try to make it cool. And here's a thing that's a physical artifact that's going to show up, documenting this journey as this rough draft is finished. Eventually, as it will be, I promise you. Eventually,
I can hear people shouting. But when's the next one coming?
Yeah,
soon.
King David got in the way, as he does. King David is pretty disruptive. So that kind of, it's really cool the way that works, but I'm still very much a guy. I buy albums, for example.
Okay.
On principle, I just buy albums. And if I like the music from somebody, I purchase their album. I do not use Spotify at all.
Okay.
Like, I just won't do it. Like, I hate it.
Because it feels like it's just eliminating the support that you have.
Yeah.
For this
it's like
person.
I have the ability to purchase their album. And I know that they will appreciate that way more than they will appreciate me adding it to my Spotify playlist. So I am not on Spotify. I don't use Spotify. I purchase albums, and I purchase songs too. It's like, but I still overwhelmingly, if I buy a couple singles from a band, I tend to go buy their album. And then I'm kind of like, those were the good songs. but I still want them to keep making stuff. And so that's the way I pursue it. And what we've done is we have people who like that. They like to support stuff, and they like to create. They like to help create the things that they want to consume. They have a hand in creating the things they want to consume more of. And then we have the rest of the population that's very used to just devaluing it and consuming it for free and just kind of drafting on it.
Yeah.
And so there are those super fans who give and support. The people who fund The Chosen, the people who fund Riot in the Dance, the people who fund shows they want to exist. the people who kickstarted Sanderson's series or back my Silent Bells thing. You have people who invest in the creation of culture. Like they are a unique breed. It's a unique personality that they're willing to invest in the creation of culture. And this is across believer and unbeliever. There's a lot of them, I think it skews towards believer. Like they will invest in the creation of culture.
You're just talking about patrons versus.
Yeah. They think like patrons.
Yeah.
And they want a world in which that art exists. They want a world in which that story exists, that show exists.
They seem to understand how culture works too, a little bit, because it can't happen without a patron.
What is the bottom line ultimately? The bottom line is a world in which this thing exists, in which these voices continue to speak or sing or create. And then you have the rest of the population. The Harmon brothers, actually at Angel, gave me percentages and broke it down, talking about the demographic analysis, where you have people who just consume. And they frequently can feel very entitled, underserved, fussy, like they just want to receive. But there is this patron class and this patron personality that they take great joy in being able to like create. They might not be the ones writing the novel. They might not be the one making the show, but they love throwing their shoulder against the back of the minivan and pushing it out of the ditch with the rest of the crowd.
When I've talked to people like that, they're very humble too.
Yeah.
Because they aren't expecting you to remember their $8.
Right.
But they are all the same being like,
yep,
here we go.
No, it blew
bigger.
My mind. When we were doing the Riot campaign, it blew my mind the people who would come out of nowhere and back this project with a significant, investment. And then also people who are taking the time and putting the effort in to invest in this project with a small investment. Because that also was like,
right. Yeah.
It took effort, it took intentionality, and it took they had to go through all the steps and be committed. Like, no, I want this to happen, and this is what I can do. Like but I want to help push this thing. I want to help make this thing happen. And there is just a personality that they share. And so you see people swinging in whatever weight class they can swing. You see that impulse. And so it turns out that there's a lot of investors and there's a lot of people who would be film financiers and publishers if God had given them, some massive inheritance from their great aunt. But God gave them something less, and so they're being faithful with that. They're being faithful to the call. It's like they do feel called to do it, and God will bless it. So it's one of those things that he's told us over and over and over again that you're faithful with a little, he'll be faithful with much.
Right.
And so people who have small salaries, they have small disposable income, and yet they're taking the portion that they can to help create culture and to help create wholesome, good culture in the world with their investment, with their backing, with their support. They are a very unique class of people, and God will bless it. And they then get to live in the world, and their kids get to live in the world that has that culture in it. One more lighthouse on the cliffs, one more bakery handing out, good stuff. And I love it. I love seeing it. And so it's a far more recent phenomenon, just given the technological advancements that we've had with crowdfunding and even innovation in direct-to-consumer stuff. But I love it. I love seeing it. And so I love seeing whether it's Canon's app and Canon, having its direct subscriber base, people who are piling in, subscribing to Canon and helping create content, or people who've supported my stuff directly, or Riot and the Dance and elsewhere. I think it's awesome. I think it's fantastic. And it is people who are doing more than just, not that there's anything wrong with this, but people are doing more than just taking their kids to the library to get free copies.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
We love libraries.
Yeah,
up until 2 years ago, we went to the library regularly.
But I grew up getting dragged to the library every Saturday, and it was awesome. It's a great experience. But I also grew up in a home that pushed its chips in on creating actual books and publishing and bringing stuff into the world. So I really would encourage anybody listening, the Stories Are Soul Food thing of trying to find stuff that's wholesome to feed your people and even consume yourself. Films, shows, books, engaging with it critically, pulling it apart, analyzing it, having that communal experience with your kids, with your family, as you read and discuss, as you watch and discuss. It is a really, really healthy experience. It really is. But so is also saying like, yeah, let's actually help make something happen. Like let's bring more into the world. And there's a lot of different opportunities to do that.
There's that book by Joseph Pieper, Leisure as the Basis of Culture.
Yeah.
Just this idea that we're free enough to create culture now. But I liked it too because that idea of leisure being the basis of culture, we've been given a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I think your sister made this point. In the 50s, there were so many massive technological developments in the home that all of a sudden it was hard to know what to do with yourself.
Yeah.
Because making food didn't take so long.
Didn't take as long.
Right, because you could go to the grocery store. And now here we are.
The house could be cleaned more efficiently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're in a similar place now.
Yeah.
What do you do when you have so much free time? Do you just sit there and whine about gas prices? Which I've been doing today.
Understandably. But the thing is, you want to support things that are wholesome. You want to support them by consuming them, by finding them. Like you want to, like, step one, find them, consume them, share them. So spread the word. I mean, spreading the word about anything valuable and wholesome and good is one of the nicest things you can do for a creator.
Yeah.
So if you find a book, if you find a film or a show that is like, hey, this is great. This is really good. We watched this with our kids. We read this with our kids. This is really wonderful. Tell people. Like, they want to know. Like they want more. And then also the creators will be extremely grateful to you. But do whatever you can do to buy the album, to buy the book, to buy the hardcover, like to do what you can. Like you like that author, like buy the nice edition. If you can't buy the nice edition, great. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
Buy the paperback. Buy a paperback for your other kid too. It's like just try to actually build libraries and collections and actually consume and then spread the word. Support these people. Support the people who are doing a good job. Support it with your readership and then your voices and then also actual pocketbooks. But as those things come up, as those opportunities come up to subscribe, to support, to back, to invest in lighthouses in this dark world, like to actually invest in those things, to invest in the creation of culture, in soul food restaurants, to actually invest in those places, then take it very, very seriously. Like, do you want to live in a world that has more of that or less of that? And then put your money where your mouth is.
This turned into an episode on patrons, but that's great.
Patronage. It is inevitable.
Patronage.
It is not possible to have arts without it. The patron class is necessary. And if it's directly to the crowd, like Sanderson just did, it's still patrons. Or if it's a giant New York corporation, some massive publicly traded company that says, hey, we're going to give you a ton of money to take the next 9 months to write this book. And it's an advance against the royalties. That's a different form of patronage. It really is.
Yeah.
So patronize. Be patrons.
Patronize as many people as possible.
Yeah. Just go forth and patronize. You heard it here.
Hi, it's Brian Cole here, wanting to let you know how you can support the Stories Are Soul Food podcast. You can do that by checking out Canon Plus. Head over to mycanonplus.com. Thanks for taking the time to listen to the SASF podcast. We'll hopefully be seeing you at mycanonplus.com.